Do you have piles of 12 by 12 paper that you'd love to turn into cards, but you don't want to make a big pile of scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies in time. So let's get making. Today I have 12 by 12 paper busting template for A2 cards number 32, which means there are 31 other templates available at JessCrafts.com that will show you how to take 12 by 12 paper and make A2 size cards without leaving patterned paper scraps. I'm going to start by cutting my patterned paper according to the template. This template is the first link in the video description, and the video description may contain other links that are affiliate links, which means that I would earn commission if you choose to purchase items. So we are going to start by cutting some pieces to 1 by 3 3/4. So I will cut a 3 3/4 inch strip off the top here, and then I'm going to cut this into 1-inch strips. So because this is 12 inches long exactly, I know I can just kind of go along and cut 1 inch. So I'm going to 11, 10, 9, 8, and so forth until I have enough strips. Now this is going to make 6 A2 size cards without scraps. I tried to group them so that you can see what goes on a single card. So here, if I have 4 strips, that is going to 4 strips, and then this larger piece that's going to create this card. So I'm going to keep going until I get those 12 pieces from this. And then this next piece, it says that it's 4 inches by 2 1/4. So now I'm going to cut a 2 1/4 inch piece off, and there, so it's 2 1/4 by 12, and then I can cut this at 4 inches. So 12 minus 4 is 8, and then 8 minus 4 is 4. So now I have those larger pieces. I find it helpful to organize my pieces into trays or like envelopes or something like that so that I don't lose track of what I need for any particular project. So I have 4 strips and 1 larger piece, and this is double-sided paper. This is the Doodlebug Snow Much Fun Ice Crystals paper. So I'm going to use some as their snowflake side and some as not. Now, of course, it's July, so I don't really necessarily, some people like to make Christmas cards in July and other people think it's way too early, but I'm going to get a start on winter cards so that I have what I need when the time comes. You might notice in the sketch it shows that I have mats around my pattern paper. So the blue portion represents the patterned paper and the light purple represents the mats. And I think this is still quite readable even if you have to print them in black and white, but I'm going to look for my mat measurements here on the card sketch. So if I want to put mats around them, I basically am going to pick mats that are 1/4 inch bigger. And so my 1 by 3 3/4 piece is going to get a 1 1/4 by 4 inch mat. This particular cardstock had a lot of scraps left in it. I keep all of my scraps right in with my full sheets of cardstock, and I do have a video about how I organize my cardstock, but that means that I had, for some reason, a bunch that I could cut into first before I go to my full sheets. So while this is not no scrap for cardstock, it's only no scrap for patterned paper, I still like to be quite efficient with my cardstock, and I do think personally I have found that keeping the scraps with the larger sheets is the easiest thing to do to make sure that those scraps get used. And so I'm going to cut these to 4 by 1 1/4. It worked out well that that scrap that I had was already 4 inches long. And those, again, will just go right in with that tray so I don't lose any of my pieces. Since I am making 6 cards, it is certainly easy to start getting lost in some of those pieces. This is 4 1/4 on one side and not the other, so that's worth noting. Okay, I need 1 more 1 1/4 inch strip. I also need a 4 1/4 by 2 1/2 inch mat. And so I noticed some of these are 4 1/4 long. And so if it's 4 1/4 on this side, I'll cut the other side to the 2.5 inch mat that I need. And I'll keep going using as much of my scrap cardstock as possible before I cut into my full-size sheets. And remember, your cardstock mat measurements are right here on the sketch. Now that I have all of my patterned paper and cardstock cut for the basic card, I want to look at some embellishments. I'm going to be making a winter card today, so I'm going to use the scrapbook.com Winter Wishes die set. It creates a polar bear, a fox, some presents, and this sweater. I'm going to use a sweater today. I want these to be winter cards so that if I choose to donate them, they are going to be able to use them for longer. Like, they're not going to be able to only give them on Christmas Day. They can give them all winter long. And I thought once I had the dies cut out, it has a shadow die and then the sweater, and there's this great detail here of the cuffs, and I'll show you that up close. See, the cuffs have a little like embossing on them, and that I find when I cut a die that has some embossing on it, I get a little bit better results when I use my scrapbook.com magic mat in place of one of my cutting plates. So I do use that quite a bit. I like it. So but that would be my particular time where I would recommend using it, is when you're using dies with embossing. But it was still looking a little plain, so I thought it'd be nice to stamp a pattern onto my sweater. So to add a little pattern to these die cuts, we're gonna take a piece of low tack tape like this scrapbook.com mint tape, and we're gonna put on the back side of the die cut, and then we can add a little bit of ink to our background stamp. If you're using a background stamp, if you're just stamping with the stamp block, you'd approach this a little bit differently. Maybe you would take your die cut and put it on a piece of scrap paper, for instance, and then place it down where you want it to go. I'm going to press it down. I'm not going to worry about really getting inky fingers or anything like that, or spreading ink to the back of this, but you could totally put a piece of scrap paper down and use that to get good coverage. And then when you think that it's sat there long enough, and I would be generous with it. I think sometimes, especially if you're used to working with a stamping platform, because you can stamp again, sometimes we stamp a little quickly, and we don't let the ink penetrate the paper. So you can leave it there for a little bit longer, let it actually penetrate the paper, and then lift it up by that little like handle you've created with your tape, and you've got a little bit of pattern on your sweater. And like most dye inks, this Lawn Fawn ink will dry a little bit over time, and they change color just very slightly. As you can see, like the fresh ink looks kind of wet, but it's just going to give a little tone on tone pattern. Then we can head back to the sketch and reference it to start assembling all of our pieces here. So the background pieces, the stripes, that are strips that go in the back, do go all the way against the left and right edge, but don't go from the top and bottom of the card. So I'm going to evenly space them, evenly from the top and the bottom. And then these two, I'm just going to lay down really gently. I'm not going to press down. I have some like dry adhesive on the back of them, tape strips. I use a Scotch ATG, and I just want to get this relatively in line with the other one and then up against the edge. And then these two, I'm going to go back and more carefully space them so that I don't have any like system of like how I make sure everything is perfect, because I'm not worried about perfect. I'm just worried about like good enough, relatively straight, that kind of thing. So you can also like line up your card with a line on a grid mat or something like that to ensure that, all the tops of them line up. Like that's kind of all I was really going for, is do all the tops of them appear to be pretty much in line. Ooh, I don't know what that speck is on that strip of paper. I'm like, can I hide it somehow? Because that's the kind of the thing with no scrap methods, or my no scrap method of card making, is that if there's something wrong, if you accidentally put some ink on a strip or something, you're gonna have to figure out how to do without it, because there isn't extra paper to solve that problem. But so I could put this down really far, or I could just be like, hey, things happen. It's not gonna be perfect. So anyway, you can see there's a circle or an oval cut out of there. That's because I wanted a sentiment or like an oval die cut for my sentiment. So I decided I would just cut it out of the cardstock mat because I was going to cover it up anyway, and that's just a little bit less wasteful of paper. Then I want to put down my sentiment. This is Warm and Cozy Wishes from a Hello Bluebird stamp set called Coffee Friends. And I also took a little scrap of cardstock and I put that behind instead of foam tape. Another way to use up those little scraps and be economical, and then I have a finished card. Keep following that procedure until you have all 6 cards from one sheet of 12 by 12 paper with no patterned paper scraps. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links that may include affiliate links. See you in the next video.